All right, let's be clear. Life is hard, and there's nothing you can really do about it. Whether you're wealthy, whether you're poor, you're going to find things in life to be hard. And in the end, it all comes down to choice. Whether you want to be successful, whether you want to stay where you're at, or whether you start going backwards and get more broke, choice is what makes the difference. You always have a choice. It may not seem like it, it may seem like the choices are always made for you, that you don't have any options, or that you're in a situation where you don't have a choice. But there's always some choice that you're making consciously or subconsciously that's putting you in the situation, or that has put you in the situation that you are. The better the choices you make, the better situation that you tend to be in. The good thing, or the bad thing, let's start with, is that all the choices you've made up until now have brought you to where you're at. And you have to recognize that it's not anybody else's fault, that you're only the victim of your own choices. The good thing is that you're the victim of your own choices. So that means you can make different choices. You know, whether that's taking time to educate yourself a little bit more, or saying yes to something you usually say no to, whether it's saving money when you would rather spend it on something, whatever it is, you have options. And many times, especially, uh, the choices are hard, especially when you're broke. The choices are way harder, and it's hard for anybody to understand what you have to do when you have very little money and the engine blows up on your car, or you're on state assistance and you have disability, and you have to go back and forth to to the doctor, and then your car, like same thing, your engine blows up on your car, and you got to pay rent and electricity, and you have kids, and so what do you do? This is when you have to be creative. If you want to get out of the hole that you've put yourself into at some point. Now, a lot of stuff has happened to you and around you, but you've also made choices that you've put you here. You have to make decisions that you don't want to make, and choices that are going to be extremely hard, way harder than anyone who's middle class would ever understand. And the same goes when you're middle class. The choices you have to make are way harder than anything that a rich person might not understand. Because in the end, the higher up in the food chain you go, so to speak, the less direct it feels like the choices are that you make. It always affects somebody, but maybe not as directly to you. So the important thing is that if you want to find success, you need to start looking for better choices than where you're at right now, unless you're already successful. And then, in which case, keep making those same choices. Maybe it means saving more money. Maybe that's the first step. But maybe it means having a roommate. Uh, Maybe it means uh, working harder than you want to work, or working for less money than you think you're worth. Um, Maybe it means asking for money that you don't want to ask for, and giving up pride for a little bit. Um, Selling something that you uh, don't want to sell, so that you can make ends meet and put food on the table and get yourself just a little breathing room. You know, there's not many people who talk about what to do when you're at the bottom. Forget debt. Let's not even talk about debt. You can be in a situation where you have no debt and still can't get out of the hole. because you're not even making enough to have debt or to have a credit card. It's possible, completely possible. So the question is, this is when you have to look around and think of all the creative ways that you can do. Can you move in with somebody else, to pay less money in rent? Can you work another job? Can you, whatever it is, just remember that you're not stuck where you're at. You have options. They're tough. They're hard options. And even if you're middle class and you're stuck in debt, yeah, you might have to give up a vacation. You might have to sell a car or not get as nice of a car. And that doesn't seem like a big ask when you're comparing to somebody who's just trying to get a car, who doesn't have the necessary income or credit to get a car, and you're complaining because you have to get less of a car. But in the end, either way, you have to make decisions that you don't want to make in order to live a better life than you're living now. But the important thing is to remember that you're not the victim except for your own choices. So take stock in the choices that you've made, accept that maybe they haven't been the best. Maybe you've made them out of anger, maybe out of ego, whatever the situation. Look at the choices that have led you to where you're at, and look at what choice, and look forward and what choices you can make to get you out of that. Sometimes it helps to look at what your goal is. Make it a small goal. Just say saving $500 and work backwards into little things that you can do to just make an extra $500 or save an extra $500 for the course of a year. Be it 500, 5,000, or 500,000. Just realize that whatever it is, no matter where you're at and what you're doing, if you want to get into a better situation than you are, you have to make different choices. Choices that are hard, that require change, that require risk, that are scary, that are uncomfortable. But if you make them, in a few years, you can be surprised at where you might end up.